Welcome to Stubs with Jason.
Stubs.
Hey people, welcome to Stubs with Jason, where I discuss movies, music, TV, pretty much all kinds of things on all kinds of screens. Let's go and get right into it. This week I watched Abigail, directed by Matt Bellinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillett, who shared directing credits for the last two Scream movies, as well as one of the segments from 2012's anthology horror VHS. This movie presents itself as a standalone film, but today I discovered it had a different working title that essentially would have given away one of the final beats of the movie, and you never know, maybe it could have been linked to something else. I won't mention it here, but I'll throw it in the comments for this episode on my Stubs with Jason Facebook page. While you're there, feel free to give it a like and a share. If you haven't already done so, go ahead and give that page a like. So I hate to have a second week where I bang on about the trailers, but I think this movie really goofs up by giving itself away in the trailer. I also understand why they did it, though. The concept is the strength of this movie, and it's definitely what got me to the theater. If someone a little more creative had done the marketing, though, I think you could have at least made it through this first weekend and given those opening weekend people a bit of a surprise. I know you're really relying on word of mouth at that point, but I think it would have been worth it. And it's kind of funny where last week I said you might enjoy the movie better avoiding the trailers because they led you to believe the movie was something else. This week I think you should avoid them or any info about this movie because you might be surprised at where it takes you. If you've seen the trailer and think, oh, well, that's pretty clever, simply stop right there. Just enjoy the idea of what you think it could be. I think the movie's concept is a lot better than its execution, and that's disappointing because I really like the table they set here. That said, this review will assume you've at least watched that trailer, so this is the last chance for you trailer-free people. Alright, Abigail. It's about a group of people that kidnap a child in hopes of obtaining a sizable ransom payout. After securing their target, they head to a secluded location and are hoping to just simply hold things down overnight until they can arrange for their big payday. That is until they learn there's a little more to this little lady than they realize. Turns out, she's a vampire. Dang, see? Imagine going into a movie that simply marketed itself as a paranoid thriller, where a group of criminals slowly start to wonder who they can trust as their counterparts slowly start to disappear, and being completely blindsided by the vampire element. Anyway, dealing with this vampire problem is essentially the entire plot for the characters that we're dealing with here. There's a bit of a secondary mystery left unspoiled by the trailers, which eventually makes its way into prominence, but I don't plan on covering any of that here, so you have something to look forward to if you ever watch this movie. Alright, so who's in this thing? The co-leads are Melissa Barrera, who plays Joey. She is also another carryover from the latest Scream movies. She's fine at best. And in the role of Abigail is the young Alisha Weir, who I think does a really good job. Like, this movie's absolutely shining when she's on screen. When she's being manipulative, she is just crushing it. And when they ask her to be over the top, and I assure you, she goes way over the top. It mostly works, but sometimes to lesser degrees. Overall, she is probably giving the standout performance from this movie. Giancarlo Esposito, you guys may know as Gus Fring or Moff Gideon, is in this movie and just absolutely wasted. Just here for a paycheck. Dan Stevens, who I really loved in Godzilla x Kong, plays a completely different character. So in terms of his acting diversity, he gets thumbs up. His character is completely unlikable in this movie, but it's not I think, but that is what they're going for. So he does fine. There's a hacker girl played by the most recent Cassie Lang from Ant-Man Quantumania, and there's a wheelman. And I think both of their characters are just the worst. The kind of people you're ready to lose within the first 30 seconds of screen time. Then there's a big dude named Peter, He's played by Kevin Durand. Google that guy. Google that guy and tell me that isn't Elon Musk's cousin or something. I think he's probably my favorite character in the movie. Just stupid through and through. Practically Harry Dunn and Hodor combined. Two historically lovable lugs. Overall, I guess I'd give the cast a resounding okay. Aside from the driver, I feel like the rest of the cast is probably more talented than what they were given to work with here. The driver, who I guess apparently passed away for real last year, he's just not good. Just not good. The characters come off pretty stiff and standoffish at first, and I guess you could say it's because they don't really know each other. But dang, for a group of strangers, they execute their kidnapping with insane precision. Eventually their chemistry gets going, and I would say they get to a point of being tolerable, maybe even slightly enjoyable. But even Joey, who you're meant to fully empathize with, is difficult to root for. Not because you're not sympathetic to her situation, but just because she makes a ton of really bad decisions. And I don't know, man. I know that in the movies you gotta suspend disbelief. This is a vampire movie, and this is a vampire movie where people continuously say, let's split up. Even after acknowledging they are aware of vampire movies in their reality. Every plan involves, let's split up. And they all continue to do so, pretty much at the suggestion of Joey, the main lady, who as far as we can tell is just there for her medical experience. Also, this movie features not one, but two character exposition scenes that could have been ripped straight out of 2016 Suicide Squad. I mean, they're literally just missing a freeze frame and bullet points popping up on screen. And when I say two scenes, it's not that they do like one set of characters the first time and then come back and finish the rest of the characters off. No, they do it for the same characters twice. The first time is to give you their background and their roles or skills, which, hey, again, points for efficiency, I guess. The second time, they give you their backgrounds again, but connect a few more of the backstory dots, the later thread dots, and this kind of sets up the way the rest of the movie is going to play out. I think we all would have been better off having just the second scene, but what makes that first scene even more unnecessary is the fact that it comes minutes after us seeing them execute all of their skills in that amazingly coordinated kidnapping I was just talking about. That said, one thing that's great, this is a very short movie, so, maybe somebody felt like having that second scene in there. I padded the runtime a little bit, but not that much, so that's fine. Visually, they end up in a cool house, and it's got a good look. The blood and the violence is pretty zany at times, like Army of Darkness level. I think some of Abigail's action bits are solid, but some of it feels a bit tired. Like, if I wouldn't have just watched Megan dance and terrorize people just a little over a year ago, I think this would have landed differently. The Abigail attack scenes are like a visual marriage of Megan and Let Me In with crazy blood. And I mean, as I say that sounds fun, and for some bits, it is. But like I said, other times, it's just not as interesting. I can't fully explain to you why. I don't know why. I don't really know why. And with that in mind, I don't know if it's good enough to say, yeah, it's definitely worth checking out purely for that element. It'll definitely be enough for some people, and don't be surprised if someone else absolutely recommends this movie to you. I can't really speak to any particular sound design that stood out. Nothing on the soundtrack did anything really for me. I mean, there was one song that I know somebody in my life is going to hear that, and then based on that, mixed with kind of the over-the-top violence, he's just going to absolutely love this whole thing, and he's going to talk to me at some point in time and just say, you're wrong, and that's fine. He can think I'm wrong, and I'll think he's wrong. That's just how this thing goes, guys. We get along, and that's how it's supposed to work. There's a mix of popular music and classical music, and essentially nothing jumped out at me. It all does the job, you know what I mean? An awful rap song appears, and it just made me dislike the characters listening to it even faster. So, there's always that. I went to see it at a standard screen, so the sound was kind of weak sauce, but I don't think that's a deal breaker for the viewing experience of this movie in general. You can see this on any screen, I think, and take away the same things. As much as I'd like to tell you to go see this smaller budget movie at the theaters, which encourages studios to continue to produce movies at this scale, I just can't. Like last week, I think you should wait until this movie hits a streaming service. Or honestly, like if you're doing a Halloween movie night and you get together with some friends and family, man, I think it's a perfect movie for that. Like a night with your cousins or your good friends, you got pizza, you got drinks, you got whatever it is that you like to do, hanging out. This is probably fun enough that you'll have a good time in that environment. Speaking of family, though, definitely not for the young ones. This is rated R, obviously, for crazy violence and blood and language. Like, yeah, just let the little ones sit this one out until they get to be at least, I don't know, 13, 14, or 15, depending on how you've handled all of that jazz, right? So overall, rounding things out, there are some elements here that are super over the top and fun. I don't hate the story, but I kind of hate how it's delivered. And I ended up not fully hating the characters, but I also didn't really care about them at all. And dang, are they stupid. I know I praised Peter for being a big dumb lug. That's cool. He's kind of an oaf. Oafs have an excuse, right? They're trying to portray everybody else as competent, and my goodness, they are just not very competent. Again, though, they're not all bad, and it's not all bad. But there's too much that doesn't land with me for me to give this movie a rousing endorsement. To me, I think this movie isn't sure if it wants to be an outright romp or if it wants to be a bit serious. And maybe the levels that they throw of each of those dynamics might work for some people, but it just didn't work for me. I don't think it executes either of them well enough to go beyond a messy meh. So I think overall, Abigail gets 5.2 out of 10. Yeah, I do decimals now. Somebody told me that whole number of reviews are for rookies. And you know what? They're not wrong. I like the flexibility that decimals give me. A 5.2 is very different than a 5.8. So with that in mind, I think Abigail is something that can be watched. I don't think it necessarily has to be watched. And if you do watch it, I think you can absolutely wait. At the Rabbit Bakes on Facebook, had a really good time. They definitely liked it more than me. My two kids were there. They had a +1. They all seemed to kind of fall more in line with me as far as I could tell. They were mostly saying it was okay. One may have gone in trailer free, and I asked, were they shocked by that reveal? They said, well, I was just kind of disinterested in what was going on, and then that happened, and I was like, okay. Not exactly the reaction I thought we'd all been robbed of, but again, I think holding that back still would have helped this movie land a little stronger. Anyway, now if you're a vampire enthusiast or a vampire movie enthusiast, I have no doubt you're going to enjoy this movie probably a little more than me and probably rate it a little higher than I did. And I totally get it. I did the same thing for Godzilla last month. The heart wants what the heart wants. I think overall, the undead horror genre has a lot more to work with, though. And I think with that in mind, I just think that they can do better than what a lot of these movies end up being. This movie is probably just a few tweaks away from being an absolute recommendation. So, did anyone else get out there and see this? Let me know what you thought in the comments, or feel free to reach out to me in my email by hitting me up at stubswithjason@gmail.com. You can listen to the pod on YouTube now at youtube.com/@stubswithjason. I'll get all these links out on all the different platforms so all the people can find all the different things in all the different places. I thought I was going to get set up on Amazon and Apple, but I encountered what I can only assume is a problem with the old website. And since none of the basic browser troubleshooting I completed was very effective, that's kind of on hold at the moment. Everywhere I go on the website just keeps displaying the dancing 3 dots of doom. It's like Spotify is typing a really long text message. Just send me your text already, Spotify. Jeez. Anyway, at some point, the YouTube channel will have things other than the podcasts, but this is a one-man show, and it all takes time. I've seen those 5-star ratings on Spotify. Please keep them coming. I appreciate all the love and the feedback and the shares that I got after episode 1. I hope you all keep tuning in. I got 30 listens in my first week, and I hate to admit, it really made me feel pretty good, despite not feeling very good. As far as that goes, this weekend I finally turned a bit of a corner. I'm still a bit congested, but I'm pretty hopeful that I'm about to put this thing in the rear view. So, all right, that's enough rambling. Thank you all again. I am out.
Stubs. All done.